Okay, so we are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Hello to Peter, our guest tonight. How are you, sis?
Yeah, good. Fantastic.
We're here.
Yeah.
That's good. So I'd like to acknowledge the Noongar people of the country on which I am today. And I'm a Dara Wutiti woman from far north Queensland. And which way are you, Peter? How about you? Where are you at and where are you from?
All right, I'm in Port Augusta, which is in South Australia. It's the crack of Australia, up the crack of Australia, I guess. My mum's a Wiradjuri woman from New South Wales, Dubbo, and my dad's a Māori man from North Island in NZ. So I'm a Maorigini, half and half.
Deadly. Well,
Hi,
it's so hi. It's so to have you with us tonight. And I kind of feel like we were laughing before. I kind of feel like I don't really need to yarn with you because you and Atra yarn and are having a good old yarn today with, all the messages and the questions. So
yeah, it was good.
yeah, it was really good. Thank you so much for being here. So let's start off. So how long have you been in mining for underground there?
Oh, underground, I've been probably about 8 months now. So before that, I was doing civil and construction on an army base. So that was just making roads for the Australian Army.
Yep.
And bunkers. And then I went to WA for a bit up to Christmas Creek. So I was doing surface mining for a bit. And then before that, I was doing open pit mining where I am now. So where I am now, I started at open pit when I first started my job, and now I'm underground, the same place.
Awesome. And maybe for people that are out there that don't understand the difference between surface mining and underground mining, I know it seems quite obvious, but if you can explain a little bit to our viewers.
Yeah. So open mining is like the hole in the ground and you see the gradients going down. Surface mining is pretty much the surface of the earth, and you only go down different levels where the ore body is. And then underground mining is when you actually chase the ore body underground. So it's like a rabbit warren underground. So there's heaps of little holes and dead ends. You get lost and that sort of, and it's black as you don't see the hand. You don't see your hand in front at all. It's just complete darkness. So it's pretty good. When I first went underground, I had a bit of anxiety because you don't. It's just the fear of going underground and how dark it is. You sort of lose your breath a bit, but yeah, no. At the moment, it's good. I'm starting to find myself around a lot of places, but yeah, I get lost all the time. But yeah.
How big is the workforce down there? Like how many people work within your company?
We have about 150 at the moment. So any one time we have about 100 people underground, but they could be from drillers to other companies, and then you've got the operators. So yeah. So we have a tag board system that once we go underground, we put our tag on a board once we enter the hole, and as we come out of the hole, we have to tag off. So if there's any emergencies that happen underground, they know who exactly is underground at that time for any rescues.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever do that. Hey, I'd be too scared to do so because I've done surface mining, but that's all. That being underground would freak me out too much, I think. But being an Indigenous woman as well, like reading through the comments that you had today, the questions that you answered earlier, thank you so much because they were so detailed and just so much of you through it. So being an Indigenous woman working underground, if you can just go through for our viewers what you kind of responded with that.
Oh, okay. So there's not many Indigenous women in our workforce at the moment, so we're sort of trying to do the recruitment phase at the moment with management, but it's basically just acknowledging what land we're on at the moment. We've got a lot of stigma around Aboriginal fellas don't like going underground. They're like, no way, we don't want to get buried alive. But I think we've got to change that sort of the way we think. So what I do is I usually make acknowledgement to the custodians of the area before I go. I've got an iced coffee. My daughter just made me an iced coffee. Ching ching. Ching ching. And can you put that over, babe? And so I make acknowledgement to the custodians before I enter the hole. And then I usually say, can you give me a safe shift? Because my partner works there too. So just look after us while we're down there. And then whenever I feel a bit scared underground, I think because it's so black, when you're in a truck, you sort of see little things like the walls start to look like faces, or you might see this black thing that darts across the front of your truck and you just think, oh, what was that? So I always, pay my acknowledgement to the local people there. But then I also let them know where I come from. So I tell them where my mum's from. I tell them where my dad's from, and that I'm here just to put food on the table for my family. I'm not here to put anyone else in danger. And at any stage where I feel I'm not supposed to be, which you do get that feeling, I get out of that area straight away. And then when the shift's finished, I come out and I always say thank you for giving me a safe shift for me and my partner. And then after that, we sort of, all us blackfellas at dinner time, doesn't matter if we're not in the same crew or if we're not in the same company, but we meet up at meals time and we just talk about shit that's happened today, or how do I dress something, or we laugh. And then, because our humour is huge at the moment. And just with this whole COVID-19 things, blackfellas like to touch and be close to each other. So we've been meeting up at each other's rooms, but we're still maintaining that 1.5 distant. But you can't keep us quiet because we're laughing and we're just talking about, what's happening around us. The other day my boot got stuck in the mud, so I fell and I was, fell in mud and, stuff like that there, just to bring a bit of humour to everybody at that time. So, yeah. So we also have elders that come out to our work site as well from the communities. And so the next time they come out, we're going to have a smoking ceremony at the entrance of our hole, and then at our other entrance, just to make sure that it's safe for us, but make sure that they're putting those cultural, just make sure our work is culturally sensitive to our needs. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that's such a great initiative as well, and so important for us who are on site, who need to be, correctly and culturally welcomed as well. And definitely after COVID, I can really imagine a lot of engagement with community, when it's safe to do so, about like smoking ceremonies and everything, because it's been such a wave of health over everyone. So it's really nice to get smoking ceremonies happening after COVID as well. So
yeah, definitely.
How many Indigenous people work on your site there that you know of?
We probably have about 10 at the moment. But there is a big recruitment at the moment. So at the moment, we've got people from every background. We've got farmers, we've got army, we've got labourers, we've got people with no driving experience, not even their learners. We've got people that have come out of the prison system that needs to have a fair go, which I really support. Rehabilitation, I really support that. We have people from health professions there. But as for the Aboriginal people, we come from everywhere, all over the state. We've got one fellow that comes from Queensland, I think. But as much as we haven't got the 10% that they've guaranteed for Indigenous people, we're getting there. So before it was only 2 people, so we've got to 10. So now it's about recruiting and retention and making sure our mob get a chance to come in, and then they're supported in the job, so then we can support them through it all, because it's quite daunting for young fellas when they come here first or come to underground mining.
Yeah, and definitely, like you said, like for a dinner time when you all catch up and really have that kind of family time together, that helps so much. Just having that network there, just to say, what, like we did this today, or this is how I'm feeling, or I'm missing family, or whichever. I think that's really important there as well.
Yeah, for sure. Even if it's around a few beers, there's a few people that don't drink. I like to have a beer after work, just to mingle. But, we're there through the good times and the sad times. So when there has been a death in the community or family member that's affected someone at work or amongst us at camp, we always find that, we've got to support them. So whether we sit there in silence while they go through a bit of mourning, because obviously our flights are only once a week. So if you get stuck at work, you're stuck there for 4 days before you can get home to see family anyway. So you can imagine the mental strain that's in someone's head when they can't be home with their family members. So that's where we sort of we look up, each other. Even if we're on the two-way, I might change my channel from underground up to the surface, and I might call out to them up on the ROM and say, "Oh, how yous going up there? Yous all right on the two-way?" Just to make sure that they're okay and someone's listening to them. So that's a good thing. We still communicate that way as well.
Yeah, that's a really good, really tight-knit community already, and just having 10
Mm.
people there is really impactful. So that's really important.
Yeah.
So, and before this as well. So nursing before this. Tell me about
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh my God. Nursing. I know. So I've been nursing for about 20 years. So I've worked in rural and remote nursing. And then I went down to Adelaide and I worked in all the regional hospitals there as well as the city hospitals. And then I found the niche. So I worked within like surgery and then oncology, and so I've worked in all departments. And I felt the main department that wasn't supported or we needed to do a bit more research on was palliative care. So I was a project manager for the palliative care program nationally, making sure that Aboriginal patients have the right to go home to country, that they understand what NFR orders are, their rights to pass away the way they want to, and to make sure that they've got resources back in the community to be looked after. So I did that for my last 6 years of nursing, and then I went back to the emergency department and thought, I can't do this no more. I've got to get out. So I decided after a shift, I wasn't going to go back for a while. I was rung every day because there's not many Aboriginal nurses that work in emergency departments and can communicate with our rural mob, ones that come off the land in Central Australia. So I miss that, but I don't miss the whole craziness of the health at the moment. So I just thought, I just want to drive a truck. I didn't know where, didn't know what, didn't have the truck license, had no idea. I just thought, I'll come up with this crazy thing. So I left the city, come back to Port Augusta, and then, what am I going to do now that I'm not working? And then BHP had a course coming up for 14 weeks, I think it was. Certificate 2 in metalliferous, mining, whatever that was. So for 14 weeks, we did a bit about mining, about self-care, about budgeting, because once us mob get a lot of money, we just like to spend. I don't know about you fellas, but I can't save when I've got biggest mob family, you know how it is. And so we had those sort of sessions. Then we had sessions to deal with grief, isolation, long hours, and then they prepared us by making us wear our high-vis shirts and pants to training, our steel cap boots. And then during that time, we were able to get a few tickets. So we got experience on loaders, excavators, water trucks, backhoes. So we got our hands dirty. So that was good. So I went from a clean, sterile environment to a muddy, dirty, just covered in crap at the end of the day, which I love. I mean, I still am registered and I still do 1 or 2 shifts every 6 months with the Royal Flying Doctor Service. It could be antenatal care out in the middle of Alice or out in the middle of Woot, but I still do that just to keep my registration, because I will go back to nursing in a few years' time. But at the moment, I just love getting dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
No washing your hands. Yeah.
that's
So,
such. I was going to say that's such an amazing career, and really, like you said, being one of a few Aboriginal nurses in the emergency ward, and then being one of the only ones that could really communicate there. So, what would be some pointers in communicating? That basic. How do we communicate with Indigenous people? What would you answer to that?
in mining or just in general when it comes to emergencies?
I think in general, because what we've really found is that you've spoken about nursing and being that communication piece. You speak about mining, and that's about communicating as well. So, what's the one thing that you've carried across really?
I suppose we know how to communicate. Blackfellas know how to communicate. Just sign language, or you go that way, or you use your mouth, or we did it for many years, smoking ceremonies, letting people know that we're coming into their area, paying our respect. I think white fellas need to be educated more about us fellas. Do you know what I mean? So I get asked by the project manager, why hasn't such and such come in for work? And I'd be saying, well, has something happened in his family? Has anything happened back in their community? Because it's not just your family, it's your community, and then it gets a bit wider. So I ask that, and then they'll say, oh, he doesn't look at me in the eyes at the meetings. And I said, well, he doesn't really have to. She doesn't have to. We are confronted when we're stared at sometimes. We find that so confronting, that you're actually eyeballing us. I said, so us fellas like to talk through the third person. We might not be talking to you, but we might be talking to somebody else to you. So I think a lot of education around that cultural stuff, we've got to educate white fellas when it comes to us, you know what I mean? So talking to your boss and letting him know that maybe you're not coping too well today because you've just heard someone's not well back at home. And then I suppose being culturally sensitive to everyone's needs. As a nurse, I learnt a lot of this stuff. I mean, when I was working for the department, I had to write letters to different councils on different missions to ask for permission to even enter as a nurse or even enter as an Aboriginal woman because I was coming from another area. So I learnt a lot of stuff, but communication it does happen at work. Some people have that stigma that blackfellas don't turn up for work. They just go walkabout. You know how you hear that? Blackfellas just go walkabout. Oh, she's gone for a couple of weeks. So I've sort of told management, this is what actually happens. In some areas, they go to sorry camp for 6 to 8 weeks. So you're not expecting them to come back, but they want to hope that their jobs are still there. So with the company we work for at the moment has an Indigenous policy, which allows our mob to go home for grief and loss. It allows our mob to go for ceremonies or attend cultural events. So that's a good policy they've got in place, but they're still learning as a company as well, because all of a sudden they only had 2 Aboriginal people that wouldn't say much. Now we've got 10. So we're still changing things slowly. So we have now, I speak on behalf of the workers. If they've got any issues, I bring that up with management. So that's another thing they didn't have before. Doing our pre-starts in the morning, it was just, oh, we're going to talk about safety today. No, we're not. We're going to make acknowledgement to country first before we even talk about safety. So those things are changing slowly in mining. Yeah. We haven't got there yet, but just small steps and just those small little things like, when our elders come out next time, when this COVID thing, more how about seeing if they want to come underground, see if they want to come under. If they don't have to, they don't, we're not going to force them. But some of them will say, oh, I'd like to go down there and just see what it's like. Even if we take them to the first level, we're not taking them all the way down because it's a long way down. But I like to keep our mob. So if I see someone struggling, I'll say, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? And then I would speak on behalf of them because they don't know how to communicate with their boss or their supervisor at the time. Some of these men that have been in mining for ages are quite stern or come across angry or they're non-approachable. But then you think some of them actually are, you know what I mean? So I just sit there and I explain to them, hey, keep an eye on him. He's had a bit of, shit happening at home. We need to support him. So call him up as your supervisor, call him up and say, hey, do you need a break? Do you want to get a coffee? Get out of your truck. Go and ask if he's okay. There's no harm in anybody asking if anyone's okay. We all have our good days and we have our bad days. I know when we had that corona, we were stuck up outside for three weeks, and all I thought about was my kids at home. All I thought, I didn't work, and they say keep your mind on your job. You know, you're at work, keep your mind on your job. You've got a duty of care to yourself. You've got a duty of care to your other workers. But I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking about how my kids are at home, how my aunties are, how they're going to cope. Work didn't even enter my mind. Even though I was there physically, mentally up here and emotionally, I wasn't there at all. I was home thinking, what are we going to do? My kids are ringing up. There's no toilet paper. They can't get toilet paper, you know, that sort of stuff. And it was hard. And with us mob that were actually stuck up there, we started another group within our camp where we talked about these issues, about isolation, about the COVID, because we're such a touchy family, you know, you forget that this is happening and you go to embrace your uncle or your auntie and you just like, oh, can't do that anymore. You know what I mean? So we have a little bit of a support group while we're at work, and we've been meeting up, talking about all this sort of stuff, the hygiene, you know, how we're going to talk to our family members, what's going to happen back home, how we are dealing with it in our head, emotionally and mentally. You know, the support services out there like Beyond Blue. I mean, I've even used them in the last 3 weeks. I've rung them up 4 times because there was times where my kids were home and I was bawling my eyes out and I had to start work the following morning, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't coping with it too well. And I fly back to work tomorrow morning for another 2 weeks work. Tomorrow day shift we've got. But it's been just a challenge all on its own. But in saying that, management are sort of coming around that, you know, they'll pull you in the office. How's everyone going? Is everything going okay? Where can we improve? You know, so, you know, obviously NAIDOC week we had to put that all on, postpone all of that as well. Our Anzac Day, all of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's been a huge challenge, and I think everybody's feeling it. It's just not me or just our group. I think everybody's feeling it. Yeah.
And it's so good as well. You know, what you've been describing is, you know, you have the 3 or 4 of you on site, so you're getting together and you're having that yarn. And really, I want to acknowledge what you said before when you're having shift starts and you want to start to integrate or implement acknowledgement to country. That comes under cultural safety. So yes, it is still about safety. It's just cultural safety as well. So how do you bring cultural safety to the same level as safety? Because it's about it comes back to retention for Indigenous people in the workplace. So the practices that you have are so exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
So like I said, only from 2 people that didn't speak up, because, you know, our mob, some are talk, and then other fellas just want to sit back. And then all of a sudden you've got 10 people and they're all starting to talk, and you think, well, management now needs to start listening about, you know, the cultural needs that we have. So they've been pretty good. They've been pretty good. You still have a few fellas that say, women shouldn't be in mining, women should be home with their families. Or you'll have, she won't turn up for work, it's too long hours. Blackfellas never work, they're always on walkabout, you know, they want money, but they are, I suppose if we're not in their face doing it and showing them that we can do it, it's not going to change. And you do get those fellas, but you know what, instead of being aggressive back to them, I just say, you know, good morning, how you going? It was a good shift, wasn't it? You know, things like that. And they're starting to turn around and say, well, actually she's here to stay and she's been turning up for work, or he's been turning up for work, and I've seen him here a couple of shifts, you know, a couple of swings. So maybe it's not all of them, but it was hard to start off with, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And good on you with that. That's so excellent. It's a positive start, which I'm very excited about. Yeah.
And I suppose the other thing is that I don't mind sharing this. I was 100. I only went to the doctors again today, but I was 116 kilos at my heaviest. And then I went and did my medical, because the medical's pretty full on over here. I don't know what the medical got for you guys, but we've got to do sit-ups, push-ups, that sort of stuff. Oh my God, nah, not me. And then I did another assessment, which was 112. Well, I went to the doctors today because always go and get checked up before I go to work, and I'm down to 89, which is good. I'm up a bit of a kilo there and there because I enjoy ice cream and iced coffee. And so that's been really good. So my blood pressure's come down, and you know how black fellas have always got all these chronic illnesses. We all do in our nature, but in our blood. But today my blood pressure was awesome. My blood sugar was awesome, and I've lost the weight. So that was really good. So at the moment, we've got a couple other girls that have noticed it. So now we're starting to walk, and it's about 5 to 6 kilometres from our camp out to our workplace, and a million flies. But that's been great. So I can actually fit in my, my big boots, and because we wear steel cap rubber boots up to our knees. And when you've got short little feet and your ankles are a bit wide, they don't sort of fit, but they fit really good now. So that's a really good thing for myself. Yeah, is being able to get down to that. So no, that's been great. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's deadly and so inspiring as well. For you're inspiring your mob around you as well. So it's really exciting.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I've got questions here as well, Peter. So Dusty as well. I've got 2 questions, but I'll ask this one first. So what is cultural safety?
To me?
To you, yeah. What's your
To me? Oh, cultural safety is making sure that you are sensitive to everyone's needs or their cultural needs. Now, I'll give you an example of what I think it is. Being a nurse, I understand everybody's got to be cultural to the First Nations people, which is us, right? But then I've got a gentleman. I'll use this scenario because it is actually true and it has happened. I had a patient who was a Buddhist, because they've got a lot of Buddhist temples down in Adelaide. He come into our ward, and he was a well-respected, high up in the Buddhist. I don't know whereabouts, but he was pretty much high. He was in palliative care. They have a Buddhist sitting with any other Buddhist that's going through palliative care 24/7. So he's always got someone in his room. They come in, the next one goes out, the next one comes in, sits for a couple of hours, the next one goes out. So they rotate. The other thing is that they like to have candles around in their room. This is part of their journey. But you can't have candles in a hospital because you'll set the fire alarms off. So I had to do a lot of research around into the Buddhist and what their beliefs were, what their cultural needs were, and everything that they stood for. Do you know what I mean? And I found that through my research that lighting a fire or candles is getting them ready to pass over, giving them guidance to carry on to wherever their afterlife is, and that it's a bit of warmth. And I thought, this really is important to this Buddhist. He can't go back home to where he comes from. He's stuck in Australia. But fuck, how am I going to, sorry, swearing, but you get that at mining. But how do I make it so I'm culturally sensitive to his needs? So I went to Cheap as Chips. I don't know what you call them over there, but those $2 shops where you can get those candles that are all battery operated. So I grabbed 50 of them. It's only like $2 each, but I grabbed 50 of them. Cleaned his room up this day, changed his linen. He had a shower, put all these candles around him, turned all on the batteries, sat him up. And then I walked out and I said to the Buddhist that was outside his room, I said, you can go back in now. And I walked off and I had to do my other nursing duties, right? So anyways, 10 o'clock come and I had to knock off. I had about 50 Buddhists at my nurse's station, and they were just bowing to me going, thank you, thank you, thank you, only because I had the time to do a bit of research and I acknowledged a bit of their end of life care, which was candles. I mean, how something so small, a $2 battery candle put through a whole room, how that changed the whole, his whole end of life journey as well for the other Buddhists that were, visiting him. So there was no words exchanged. It was just all body language, and the way they just bowed to me and prayed, and I felt like, oh my gosh, How powerful is that? So I always make sure, it doesn't matter if it's another nation, I always try to pay respect and make sure that I'm culturally sensitive as a person, First Nations person, to the next person that's in front of me. Because the other thing, we don't all come from the same area. So I've got to make sure that I'm sensitive to you fellas' needs that are in Queensland, that you fellas in WA or Northern Territory, Groote Island, Murray Island, Victoria and Tasmania, because our borders are not just by state, our borders are by our groups. So I've got to make sure that I'm culturally sensitive to you fellas' needs, and I'm not stepping over the boundaries as well. So that's how I deal with cultural sensitivity. I have been brought up on my Maori side, where the New Zealand side is very similar to the Aboriginal side, except when it's cricket and rugby on, we sort of have a bit of a punch up because I'm half are Australian and half of the New Zealand side. So, but I always pay my respects because I believe that doesn't matter where I go. I know my chiefs. I come from a long line of chiefs. I come from a long line of princesses, my grandmothers, and I always make sure that they're coming with me wherever I travel. So when I do meet another Aboriginal person that's come on site, you have the time to say, oh, well, where are you from? You don't go up to them in your face. You sit alongside them and you say, oh, where your mob from? What's your family from? Are you the only brother and sister? And, is your family from this way? Oh, yeah, I might know someone. Or, so that starts the yarning circle, innit? So that makes them feel a bit comfortable that the next time they see you, they might say, oh, hey, going, sis. So at the moment, I call everyone at work my bro. So I don't call them by name. I just say, oh, hey, going, my bro. And now they turn around and they say, oh, hey, going, my bro. So they call me my bro. So that's how we've sort of had to build it up a little bit. But slow steps. But if I know that I've overstepped a boundary, I try to work through it there and then and instead of letting it fester. But we only know if we've done something wrong is if someone tells you, So I had to learn all this. I had to learn you don't make eye contact. I had to learn that females enter a clinic on one side, males had to enter a clinic on another side. Do you know what I mean? I had to learn all that because I didn't know, from Central Australia, what happens there to what happens in Dubbo is totally different. Do you know what I mean? So always pay my respects, because if I am not sure, I believe my people will tell me how to react to it. So, yeah. I think that kind of answers it. I think cultural sensitivity.
It totally does. And thank you so much for that share. That was such a beautiful share. And it really turns that definition to, instead of the question being what's cultural safety, it's like, well, what's cultural sensitivity? So it gives that ownership for us to say, well, it's instead of having it out there and not understanding what cultural safety is, it's about taking it on board. So, well, I can be culturally sensitive. So that's all. Question. Thanks, Dusty. Hello to Narelle as well. So Narelle is here. She was on board with us last week. So she had a question here for you. So how do you best challenge these negative comments or perceptions?
Show them up. That's what I do. Show them up. If they're, they've got this sort of stigma, Port Augusta, sometimes we've got a redneck community here. So we get a lot of fellas that will say, oh, all you see is Aboriginal fellas down the beach, drinking, gambling, they're not working. So we've got that huge stigma here in Port Augusta. It's everywhere else. But I think if you're not in their face and showing them that we can do it, they'll always have that in their head. I have had the word nigger used at work, and I really pulled him up there and I said, what did you say? And he said, a nigger. He goes, I'm not talking to you. I said, you know what? I don't care if you're not talking to me, if you're not talking to the next person or the next person, but that word will not be used around me ever again. He goes, but it wasn't to you. I said, doesn't matter. I'm offended by that word as much as my brother and sisters over in America or Africa. Don't use that. The same with the word You do hear it sometimes, abo, but they'll go abo and then they'll correct themselves, originally, if someone's around, or aboriginal. If I wasn't there, I'm sure the word abo would have been used. Do you know what I mean? So I'm in their face again because now they're not saying the abo anymore. They're saying the aboriginal. But I always pull them up. Do not say those words. It's not used anymore. It's not right. I said, we've got a bullying and discrimination policy in place. I'm aware of that policy, and I can go to my manager and talk to him about that policy and the words that you're using because it's inappropriate and I'm offended. So I just nip it in the butt, tell them straight out, it's not appropriate. If it's with some of these old miners that really think women shouldn't be in mining, and I can't approach supervisors like that, I'll go to the person that's above him because, you know, they talk about using your line managers when you've got any issues, but sometimes that line manager is the issue. You know what I mean? So I go to the person that's above him
Yeah.
and tell him exactly how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
The
excellent.
other thing that I do at work, but I've done this all along, is had a diary. So in my diary I have at work now, it's not a diary just about work, it's just a diary in general. So I'll put down first night shift out of 14. I'll put down the foreman that's on, who our shift boss is on, what truck I've been allocated or what machine I've been allocated, my first loads, my last loads, how many hours I worked, what the weather was like, because if it's raining, you know, sometimes you feel a bit doom and gloom, whether it was stinking hot and I ate 5 flies, that sort of stuff goes in there. Because I can reflect on that. Do you know what I mean? So a diary is a really good thing about reflection at the same time.
Yeah, and that's really good for your mental health as well. So what's your roster down there? You said 14 days.
Yeah, it was 7 days, 7 nights, and then 7 off. But because of this corona thing, it's now 14 day shifts, 14 days off, and then 14 night shifts, 14 days off. Yeah, 7 nights, 7 days, 7 off. So now we're 14, even time they call it. So we work 6 months of the year.
Yeah, that's good. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and so much you know, good feedback there that you said as well in terms of challenging those negative comments and nipping it in the butt and taking ownership and also, you know, using events like NAIDOC Week whenever we can celebrate it, you know, Reconciliation Action Week, all of that to educate as well. So, you know, that acknowledgement that you're doing at shift start, that's excellent. You know, that welcome to country smoking ceremony, that's all education, which is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So just a couple of comments here as well. So so your phone is on as well. So it's about respecting other people in their culture. Such a great, kind, and considerate act. Cultural sensitivity is a must in every situation. So definitely
for
agree.
Sure.
And going back to the first question as well, it's more about work. more about work. How do you handle the boredom of driving? So
I think I'm an Australian Idol. No shit. I will sing in my truck. I don't care. You know, I'll write lyrics on the windows. I'll make my own lyrics up. Yeah. So the boredom of the truck. Yeah, I do that sort of shit. And then, you know, sometimes there's banter on the two-way and you get to laugh at other fellas with their comments or what they say. So that's really good too. In some sites you can listen to music. Like open pit or surface mining, you can get away with listening to USB. But when you're underground, there's no music allowed at all. So you got to find your own way. Hangman, challenge yourself, write things on the windows like words. Sometimes some words you think, oh my gosh, is that how you spell it? No, it should be spelled this way. Yeah, that sort of stuff. So that's what you do. Or you eat cucumbers.
So definitely for advice as well for people, because I know that we were a little bit late tonight, which is all good, and we've got a bit more time left. But in terms of your professional development as well, so you say that you're focused on really moving up and becoming a supervisor, and you know, taking those steps. So how supported are you, or how supported do you feel, and what steps are you going to take to achieve that?
There's not many women supervisors, is there, really? I think sometimes as women, we've got to do 110% to show that we can actually do it physically, mentally, emotionally, because they think that, you know, being a woman, you're too emotional at times. Oh my God, I'm going through menopause. I have more mood swings than anybody in that truck. I mean, I can argue with myself in that truck. Have hot and cold flushes, you name it. I don't think work's ready for me as a supervisor yet. Oh, no shit. But we all bring different expertise to the job. I mean, I don't tell many people that I'm a nurse and I've worked in remote communities and, you know, I've worked with the ambulance. So they don't know my background as a professional in that area. And I don't tell anyone. My partner's the one that tells everyone, not me. But so I don't think they're going to be ready for me. But I have told them, and we have like every 3 months we have those appraisals done. So my next appraisal comes during this swing coming up tomorrow. So that's when I'm going to say I'd like to be trained up as a supervisor, or I'd like to be doing a bit of training and development with new staff that come on, because that's one thing. They think cultural awareness can be done on a computer. It's not. You need to have that face-to-face contact. You need to see the real people. You can't do it on a friggin' computer and say that you're culturally sensitive or you're culturally appropriate now to work in that area. You can't do it. You've got to listen to where this community's come from, what happened in that area, because we've got a lot of cultural sensitive areas around our mine site. So we've got to make sure that we're not walking through those areas. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to take all that on board. But small steps like getting the elders to come in. I want to get a sign of acknowledgement to country above our the hole that we first entered to make pay acknowledgement to the custodians of that area. And so they're the small things I want to see. I want to see Aboriginal fellas given the chance to work in or double up with a supervisor for a couple of months, even if it's 6 months, to get that buddy system happening as well. There's another thing that I've written in my diary again, is the numeracy and literacy stuff, because some of us fellas learn by eyesight or physical labour, and some of us fellas can't read and write, but we can be the smartest fellas up here. So a lot of fellas are put off by applying for jobs like this because of the paperwork and not understanding the orientation or the policies and procedures you've got to read through, or the 100% questions you've got to answer. So I'd like to see something in place where our people have a system where if they're going to come to site, that they don't do it on their own. They get brought to site, we sit down with them with the computer and we go with the questions with them to explain to them a bit better than what a computer system would. So that's where I think our recruitment and retention needs to start there, because we all can't read and write, you know what I mean? And so a lot of people just don't apply for jobs, or they don't stay because they don't feel like they're supported. So those small little things is what I'd like to put in place when I get in a bit of a management role. But until then, I'll be just in their face saying, this is not cool, you got to do this, we got to make changes, because at the end of the day, we got to work together. That's our family. When we're away at work, that's my family. And I hope to think that all my bros and my sisters out there think of me as their family too, because we got to work together. We got to be safe together. If anything happens underground, it's not a nice place to be. So, yeah.
Oh, definitely. I feel like I'm your family now, you know, like it's so much, you know, connecting so much and just, you know, really loving everything that you're saying. And I'm so excited for all the initiatives that you're going to put in place there, because you're so right. These little things like that acknowledgement before you go underground, all these things around retention and onboarding and all of that, helps retention and that makes people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
And even the prison system, I mean, some of our men, obviously I worked in the prison too, so I've just seen the whole cycle. I won't get into too much about the prison stuff, but I think everybody deserves a second chance. Everybody deserves a second chance. And I just think, okay, our men are in there for domestic violence and stuff, but they change, you know, some do, some don't. But I think that everybody has a second chance. And if we can get our our brothers and sisters out of the prison system and get them some sort of employment, then we wouldn't have this whole vicious cycle where they reoffend and they end back in the slammer. They reoffend, they get back in, you know what I mean? They come out, they're back in. So, yeah, I believe in recruitment and retention that way, supporting our mob. And the other one is anyone with mental health. I just think depression is a huge thing. Some of us acknowledge it, some of us don't. Some have mental issues, you know, could be anything from, you know, bipolar or anything like that. But I don't think we should be segregated, or we should be putting those people aside, because those people can do just as damn good as anybody else. So I really push for anyone that has mental illness to be able to work in this industry as well, but be supportive. Maybe a buddy system for the first 6 months so they get used to the long hours, and then they'll work out whether it's for them or not. But that's them making that decision, not somebody else saying, we don't think you're fit for the job.
Yeah, definitely. It's about, you know, really recognizing the skills that we all bring. And like you said, like I'm so interested in that I like, yes, that mental health space, but also that that, you know, jails to jobs function, because, you know, like you said, the reoffending rate and the people, you know, our incarceration rate is huge.
Huge.
So, you know, it's opposites, right? So Indigenous people in our sector, the highest employer for Indigenous people, yet people incarcerated are just as high, you know, like it's so how do we start to solve those problems? Seeing what we can do there. So.
And then number one is getting more women. Yay
Well,
to the women! Yay to the women! Yeah, getting us mob in there.
Yeah. Why do you think that is for women, for more women to be in the workplace, more Indigenous women in particular?
Oh, because we are everything. We are from this land. That's what I think. Well, you know, I'll tell you another story. I've got plenty of stories because I've been around, but I remember when I was in the truck the first time. It was a big 793. It's a big dumpy. It's huge. And we went and did wet weather training, and I jumped in the truck, and my trainer next to me said, right, try to roll the truck. I was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? He goes, try to roll this truck. I was like, all right then, buckled up, you know, thought, oh yeah. So they wet this pad down, they soak it and soak it and soak it with water. So it teaches you how to control a truck if you go into a slide, right? So there I am trying to roll. I was doing doughies, I was doing 8 figures, I was sliding around, drifting. And the guys that were on the ground, they said, oh, who's that guy driving that truck? Fucking, he's awesome. And who jumps out? This little old lady jumps out, you know, takes the helmet off, the hair drops, and they're like, fuck, and that's a woman. And I was like, yeah, that's a woman. We can do it as much as anyone else. Do you know what I mean? So we need more women down there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And we're a bit softer on the machines as well. You know, some blokes just like to rip it around, whereas I'm like, oh, I'll just take it like slow a little bit around this corner. Yeah. So, yeah. And it'd be good to see more Aboriginal women up there, because I tell you what, you feel like you're on top of the world when you're getting your own money. You know, your income's pretty good. You keep your truck clean. You feel like you're a part of another family. So, and your family's all proud of you. Like, my kids are so proud of me. It doesn't matter where I could have been a garbage collector and they would be so proud of me, you know. So, you know, I find that, oh, I'm proud, I'm chuffed when my kids say, oh, my mum drives a truck. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. And it's all... Yeah. It's all other avenues you can go into. You don't have to just drive a truck. You can operate a digger or a water truck or a loader or a backhoe. The machines are endless. And I think the more we get women into them, the more we can say, look, we can do it just as much as you fellas. Yeah. Because I think working in such a male-dominating job now, whereas nursing was more female-dominating job, now it's a male one, they're a bunch of pussies, just like everyone else. I mean, they might be hard on the outside, but you have a few beers with them and, you know, they're in your lap bawling their eyes out. They're not as tough as they come across. Yeah. So you can talk about anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good, because you're so right, because it's about that family. We are family when we're not at home, you know, because we spend so much time together. We spend the long shift together as well. You know, we have lunch together. We go home in the bus together. So that's, you know, that's family. And so what do you say as well to your children as a role model, and they love you so much, you know, the amazing family dynamics you have? what would you say? What do you say to your children about career progression and, you know, growing up into something that they want to be?
You can do anything. Absolutely do anything. I can't sit on there and tell you where I've been or what I've done, but I've been in the slums. I've been in domestic violence relationship, which was quite horrible. Wasted days and wasted nights. You know, many times I'd rock up to the hospital and look after women through domestic violence and giving them all of the advice, and I was living that fucking nightmare. Do you know what I mean? I was living it, and I was giving other women advice in what to do. And I did that for many, many years. But from there to where I am now, it ain't going to happen no more. It ain't going to happen no more, because I'm better than that. But it's taken me a while, through a lot of heartache and tears, I guess. But, you know, us women are built. We are, you know, it's amazing. Women
Oh,
are amazing. They are. And,
you
you know,
are
if I can do it, anybody can do it. I tell you. Even losing the weight, anyone can do that too. But I've been in the slums, and to where I am now has been a journey in itself. Yeah, hasn't been all roses, but your kids are so proud of you, and when they say, "Oh, Mum, come home safe," or "I love you every night," or "What did you do today?" makes it all worth it, doesn't it? Yeah. So I buy little dumpies for my nieces and nephews and little helmets and stuff like that there, and yeah. So see what happens. BHP might call me up one day and I could be the director. Who knows? Area administrator. Aim high.
Well, you can do anything
Yeah,
like
for
that.
sure.
You're so amazing. Thank you so much for, you know, sharing, you know, your stories and that, because that's so, you know, so many people have those stories as well. And thank you so much for actually giving them voice, because not a lot of people can speak about it so openly and so
Yeah,
honestly, you know, to come out the other side. And like you said before, going through a domestic violence relationship, telling women what advice and, you know, direction to go to, and yet you go home to
yeah.
that. Like,
Same
that's
shit. Yeah. But like, ladies, what I say, I'll give you my phone number. I'll give you my email address. Add me on Facebook. Anytime you fellas have a question or you're not too sure about anything, just flick it to me. I mean, on night shift, well, we can't have phones underground at all, but we always go through our phones at the end of shift. I mean, I might not get to you in 12 hours time, but I will get back to you. Any little question, even if it's just, "Hi, I'm not feeling, you know, that good today." I mean, I didn't have a good day yesterday. It was Mother's Day and I've only lost my mum to cancer. But just the text messages from family saying, "Look, I'm thinking of you today," or "How you going today?" It was precious. So, like I said, I'll send you all my details. You fellas want to give me a call or email me or add me on Facebook. Sweet as. I'm on this journey with you fellas. And I'm not going to be around. I'm getting old. It's you fellas are going to be, you know, coming up. I want to see you fellas as supervisors.
yeah.
Yeah, be good. Precious. So
Thank you.
thanks for your time, ladies.
No, thank you for being here and like yarning and, you know, really sharing. And don't forget as well, H reached out to you, keen to be a mentor. So I'm gonna flick you her details when she gets over to me, or she or he.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're so strong, so amazing. I'm really looking forward to
Oh,
what you bring to the table and bring
yeah,
that
sweet
as director.
as. Maybe we can, yeah, bloody hell. Maybe in a couple of months' time, we might be able to get some funding where we actually go away for a weekend where we actually meet up with everyone on this group and have
Yeah.
face-to-face contact. And I'm sure with all the mining that's going around now, and if we can tap into some of their policies, I'm sure they'd support it. Even
Yeah.
if we all met, you know, in Alice Springs, which is the central, you
Yeah.
know, flight down, we can have face-to-face contact. That would be great. But that's just something that we can, work towards. But other
Definitely.
than that, yeah. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much. And I can sit and listen to yarns all night, but thank you so much and let you go because you are flying off tomorrow.
Yeah,
Safe with everything. Thank you for sharing your story. We have to have you back on, and I'm going to
that's all right.
connect with
Sweeto.
you, and we will follow your journey. I think that's
No
a really
worries.
awesome idea.
All right. Stay strong, ladies.
All
See
right,
yous.
Peter, stay safe
See you,
and stay.
mate.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.